fighters in Washington, D.C., of course running for re-election as all House members do every 2 years. He has a book here today. He's going to be signing it afterwards. And as I mentioned, if you join a donor club today, the book will be free. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Setting the stage for the Congressman. And if you don't want to join a donor club, or you're already a member of a donor club, $20 gets you the book, and the Congressman will be signing it afterwards. Ladies and gentlemen, our own freedom fighter, Congressman Darrell.
See, look at that. I've got my own cheerleader. First of all, for all of you in the back, the bar is still open. For all of you in the front, please stay away from the bar. I want to thank you all for being here, and quite candidly for being here, not just for my once every 2 years opportunity, but on a more regular basis. Not every night is a Lincoln Reagan dinner. Not every night is a gala. But the people who come here year after year, month after month, and are the party loyalists are so important to what we do. Now, in the past, I've normally come to the Central Committee and said, I'm going to be helping other candidates, I'll endorse candidates, try to raise money for them, and I'll be around the country raising money for others. But what's happening in California is so important. Yes. For the first time ever, we will have a Senate, a statewide race, and we will not have a Republican on the ballot. We will have 2 Democrats. So we as Republicans have a challenge we have never had before. Every single Republican elected official or aspirant to be an elected official will have to get 51% of the vote from people who have probably already voted for one of 2 Democrats. Now, there'll be a few that will skip Loretta and Harris, and they'll go right down and they'll vote for me, or they'll vote for a assembly or whatever. But the vast majority are starting off at the top of the ticket, where, although I think I know Donald Trump is coming back here, so is Mike Pence, they're going to be in the state. It is a long shot for them to win the state. It is not a long shot for them to win some of our districts, though. And that's an important part of what we do, is we pump up the Republican numbers so that they don't get a free ride. Then we make a tough decision on the lesser of 2 evils, or skip it altogether, depending on how you feel about it, for the Senate. And then we have Congress, Assembly, in many cases Senate, and then we have all of those water districts, City Council, Board of Supervisors. Kristen's here tonight. The fact is, you have incredibly important races, and they will produce the next generation of people who will run for higher office. We have to make sure they win, and we have to make sure they win when, in fact, it is likely that people who have voted for a Democrat, and then we're going to ask them, encourage them, and explain why they should vote for the party that believes in personal liberty and real freedom. That's us, and we have to do that. So I want to thank you all for that. Tony, I think, said about 45 times I've written a book, and it's available in the back. But I want to just share with you tonight a little bit of why I wrote the book and why it means more to me today than it did when I started writing it. For 10 years, I worked on the Oversight Committee. What some people know, not everyone knows, is I never intended to work on that committee. I went to Congress like any businessman saying, okay, where are the committees that control business? And they said, oh, you've got to be on Energy and Commerce. It's a powerful committee. So I asked to be on that. They said, you can't get there as a freshman. What are your backup plans? And as somebody with 37 patents, I said, well, where are patents? And they said, Judiciary Committee, and it also controls the Constitution and federal judges and the courts. I was like, yeah, but it got patents? Okay, I'll go there. And I looked at Foreign Affairs, and I said, what are my chances of getting on Foreign Affairs? They said 100%, nobody wants it. Remember, this was before 9/11. There's no juice on that committee, meaning nobody gives you money because you help look at our foreign policy, or because you try to keep the USAID from wasting countless billions of your dollars. And I'll share with you, you'll notice there'll be every once in a while a pause where I'll go into a little digression that you think wasn't planned. This one was. How many of you know that there is a member of the European Union that gets USAID money? Yeah, Cyprus. Now you say, well, Cyprus is a pretty rich country. It's not poor. What would we do? Well, it's for the peace treaty between the Cypriots and the Turkish section of Cyprus. You go, oh, great. When's it going to be done? Oh, they haven't done anything in about 20 years. But we give them about $2 million a year so people can hang out there waiting for the day in which they're going to do something. And I happened to have gone to Cyprus one time. It was during one of the many battles in the region of Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, and so on. And you had to fly into Cyprus in position to go in just a military plane and then come right back. So while I was there, waiting for the plane, I had this briefing on USAID. And you go, okay, do they understand that there's nothing special that requires you to spend a couple $1 million a year just in case? Because it's not like they're doing anything, they're just there in case. There's billions of dollars like that and I'm a big fan of foreign investment, and I'm not against aid to countries that need it. I voted for and helped champion the AIDS initiative in Africa and the Caribbean because it made a real difference. It was one of the stunning first accomplishments of the Bush administration. But we give about $500 million a year to Nigeria. You know what the number one product in Nigeria is after those emails telling you that if you'll just give them your bank account, they'll give you money? After that, it's oil. Our own Justice Department indicated that just the Secretary or Minister of Energy in Nigeria stole $500 million a month for 6 years, every month. Now, she had to share it with a lot of people. It wasn't just hers. But they diverted that much. Much of it's in the U.S., much of it's sitting in Houston and other places where Nigerian businessmen seem to be amazingly successful. It is one of the big money laundering operations. And yet we give them $500 million a year. But we're not attacking Boko Haram that is in fact affiliated with ISIS. So by accident, I didn't get on the Energy and Commerce Committee my first 2 years. I got on Foreign Affairs and Judiciary. And I found out how important the Committee of the Constitution was. And to this day, I'm on Judiciary, and I think it's the most important committee because if we do not protect our constitutional rights, there is nothing left to protect. And I remain on Foreign Affairs, and I continue to tell people about the waste, fraud, and abuse, and continue to attack it, and continue to recognize that every president gives lip service to it. I do suspect, though, that Donald Trump will give more than lip service to it. And if he ever gets wobbly on it, Mike Pence and I were classmates. We came in together in 2001, and he's not going to go wobbly on that. But then in that journey, and it's all covered in the book in incredible detail, and Tony may tell you about it later. But those first 2 years I served on that committee, and then I got that dream job. You can be on Energy and Commerce. And I went to that powerful committee where money flowed in like nobody's business because everybody had something they wanted from that committee. Healthcare, energy policy, you name it, it's all in Energy and Commerce. And as my PAC funding was just coming in unasked for, people asking, when can we do an event for you? I was bored. That committee mostly just makes things that make them gain money. It's the old Washington mentality. And they create major agencies that have alphabet, the SEC, the FEC, all of those. Now, don't get me wrong, Judiciary created the FBI, the Department of Justice, the DEA. Everyone does that. But I was bored. And I talked to one of my mentors who was a wonderful man. He's still alive. He's not dead. He's doing fine. But Tom Davis. And he said, you should come to oversight. I can probably get you a waiver so you could stay on Energy and Commerce and have all that money flow in from an easy, powerful committee. But you could come do something meaningful. You could look at the waste, fraud, and abuse. And by the way, I can get you on because I've got 2 vacancies and nobody wants this committee. Because, again, there's no juice. There's no money. I mean, come on, how many people are going to give you money to attack industries and government for waste, fraud, and abuse? You just don't make any friends. Matter of fact, Eric Holder's got a birthday coming up. I'm not invited. I think I'm off limits for Lois Lerner too. And Hillary, not so much. So I accepted his offer, and lo and behold, I was given the dream offer of a lifetime. They told me I could take a leave of absence from that powerful committee, Energy and Commerce. I could go back to Judiciary and Foreign Affairs, which I found deeply meaningful, and I could be on oversight. Now, that means I was on 3 committees. None of them are juice committees. None of them are about raising money. But every one of them is critical. All our protections domestically, all of our entanglements, treaties, and in fact, all the dangerous places in the world on foreign affairs. And the committee of absolute jurisdiction, not of making laws or doing things to get all kinds of people to come in and lobby you, but the committee that looked into waste, fraud, and abuse anywhere in government. And in fact, if it touched on the private sector, as the Countrywide scandal did, where Angela Mazzillo of Countrywide was outright bribing people in government, from the postmaster to Chris Dodd, up and down senators, House members, by giving them unbelievable loan packages. There was one woman in the finance committee, staffer. She refinanced her house 13 times, didn't cost her a dime. Every time the interest rate would go down a fraction of a point, she'd call up her VIP representative, and he'd say, of course, no problem at all, just, we'll take care of the paperwork, we'll just show you where to sign. And for no money at all, she's just refinancing. Did it ever occur to it, none of the rest of us get to refinance for absolutely free, not even nothing, zero cost, not even a notary cost. So we investigated all of those things. And for the first couple of years, we were investigating the Bush administration. And just so you understand, there was plenty to investigate in the Bush administration. How many of you know how many $20 bills will fit in a C-17? Okay, yes, it is more dollars than we took to Iran. It is more than 400 million. It's about $1 billion load. Well, we took $20 bills, fresh $20 bills to Iraq to, quote, replace Saddam's money. The only problem is we have no idea where that money went. That's right. I mean, it went into the economy of Switzerland, Germany, France, who knows. That was under the Bush administration. Now, anyone here know what the Mineral Management Service is? Raise your hand if you're really a geek. Okay. Well, you probably didn't know it. But we did hearings on it. It was created by Ronald Reagan to cobble together some other agencies to try to fix a problem at the Department of Interior. And it was responsible for oil and gas drilling, for its safety, and for collecting the money and signing the leases. That was its job. Recognize the potential, find buyers or renters, actually, execute leases, collect the money, make sure that the oil and natural gas wells were safe and that we were getting what we were supposed to get. Of all those jobs I just gave you, Mineral Management Service could do none of them. They had defective leases that cost us about $18 billion in lost revenue during, it actually began in the Clinton administration, but during the Bush administration. They had no idea how much oil and natural gas was being pumped. They never had an audit in which they disputed what the oil companies were saying. And I know oil companies are wonderful people, but and wildcatters are particularly honest, but it turns out they have the best accountants in the world. They were never wrong. Now, you got to know Mineral Management Service, but you didn't realize it, because after Obama became president and Bush did nothing about this dysfunctional Mineral Management Service, 2 inspectors from the Mineral Management Service went out into the Gulf of Mexico on a little-known rig called the Deepwater Horizon, gave it a clean bill of health, left, and a few hours later it blew up, killing many of the drillers and then spilling vast amounts into the Gulf of Mexico, polluting for as far as you could see. A natural disaster made by man, and made because those inspectors had no idea what they were doing and never did. They had breakfast, they saw their cousins, but they didn't know what they were doing. So all of you, if you read that book that Tony is recommending to you, and I recommend you give him $100 so you get it for free. But it's worth it at twice that price. But if I get 200, you get 2 books. But when you read the book, you're going to see everything from the story of George Washington actually asking the Congress to investigate how they lost a battle, because he couldn't, quite frankly, trust his own generals to be honest about how they lost the battle. And by the way, for records of history, it turned out it was because people were taking bribes and not delivering the ammunition and food and supplies they were supposed to. Yes, it happened back then too. Not every horse thief steals a horse, but plenty of people steal from the government. So you're going to read most of the chapters about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, Lois Lerner, about Eric Holder, about Fast and Furious. You're going to hear about the scandals of that administration. But don't forget that as Republicans, we are not the party of government for government's sake. We're the party of government to serve the people. And so when you read it, realize that the most important thing we can do, the reason I am staying in Congress and hope after this next election to be the next person to chair the Judiciary Committee, is so we can pass laws that hold the president accountable in his administration. So we can do oversight that isn't just finding a problem and informing you, but finding it and forcing it to be fixed. And I practiced that so I wouldn't mess that one up. Finding it and forcing it to be fixed. So anytime you talk to your Democratic friends and you're trying to explain what the difference is between a Republican and a Democrat, don't go into socialism. Socialism is too easy. Big government, big spending, too easy. We're the party that believes it's your money. We're the party that believes it's your rights. And we're the party, when we do what we should do best, that makes sure that your rights are protected, that your money is well spent, and that no more is spent than is needed for that which you authorize. And nothing is done that you and through your elected officials did not authorize. That's who we are. We're the party of accountability of the government for the people. Amen. So I'm going to close with something off script, but well thought out. Tony wasn't the only person there for Jonathan Guzman. I was honored to be at his funeral. And I listened to one after another of the people who served with this wonderful, I say young man because he was younger than me, who came late to police work, who loved it, did not move up to the highest ranks, but was spoken from the chief on down in glowing terms and not the usual platitudes that you expected. By the way, our Attorney General was there. She spoke platitudes. But his own chief, who had been his boss as a lieutenant, spoke with specificity about exactly what kind of a wonderful human being he was. Someone that would both get SWAT training and would do gang community outreach where you walk up with nothing but a thin vest, and that those vests, as we know, do not stop heavy bullets. And work with the community to try to turn gangs off of violence, put them away if they can to save the children of the rest of the families there. He really was a special individual. But the most striking thing that I think we should all tell people as Republicans, he and his family came from the Philippines. He arrived within days of his 21st birthday. He was scared stiff because he was the oldest son, and we don't take people above 21 as a family group. He would have had to apply separately. He was scared stiff that his family unit wouldn't come through in time, and he wouldn't come to America. But he went through the front door. He did everything he was supposed to do. His parents did everything they were supposed to do. And he made it. He made it by a matter of weeks. And because he came to this country legally and believed in this country, applied for and eventually became a policeman, and worked all those years, San Diego is a better place for it. And with his passing, San Diego is a less better place, a more empty place. So when we're talking about immigration, I suggest strongly we talk about every example we know of people who beat the odds, who put their application and did what they were supposed to do. Maybe they used every trick in the book, exaggerated their pay or opportunity, did everything my grandfather did, which is he went to Brazil because it was easier to apply to come to the United States from Brazil than from Lebanon. But they still went through the system, and they came in legally, and they came in believing in this country. Guzman didn't come here to make a few bucks and go back to the Philippines. He came here to be an American, and so did his whole family. As Americans and as Republicans, we need to tell those stories every time we can. And it just happens that you get 2 for 1 when you talk about Officer Jonathan Guzman. Because you're also talking about somebody who laid down his life, and a life that might not have been necessary if we all had stood behind our police every day, if our social recognition was that it is never, never, never right to shoot a cop. And if we are a zero tolerance for that, we can drive that down. That's a story that wasn't told at the funeral, but it's all that went through my mind, is how police officers all around this county are now buying heavy duty vests because they think they're targets, because they know others are. If it can happen in Dallas, it can happen in Carlsbad. If it can happen anywhere, it can happen here. So I'm going to leave you with a sober thought. We have an election in which we have to change administrations. And God help us, let's change it for the better. Yeah, you can go ahead. If by chance we do not succeed in changing it for the better this year, we must double down on every effort we can find to take our country back, to never give up, and to know that in fact, not the only way to hold a president accountable isn't to elect a president. The only way to hold a president accountable is to make sure we have laws that must be obeyed by the president and every member of his or her administration. So thank you, and God bless.